All right, everybody, we'd like to welcome our 2025 RBC Canadian Open champion, Ryan Fox. What an epic day.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool, Mark, to be fair. Was pretty happy just to get in the playoff there. Obviously, I needed a really good finish to get there, and had some great shots coming down the stretch. And Sam let me off the hook big time there. That first playoff hole, I'd almost given him that, and then we had a couple of scrappy holes there, and then to hit the shot I hit on 18 on that fourth playoff hole was pretty surreal, to be honest. It's probably, well, actually it will be the best shot I've ever hit in my life. There's nothing close to that. And again, Sam probably let me off the hook making three putting there, but I felt like I put the pressure on him with that shot, and it was pretty cool to have a nice little tap in there and be able to soak it all in.
Can you kind of put it into perspective? It's your second victory on the tour in just a month. You're into the US Open next week. I mean, your career's on a high. Your head must be spinning a little bit right now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it feels like yesterday we were doing this at Myrtle Beach, and I've played the PGA and Memorial since then, and seem to be making a habit of getting into majors last minute, which is not a bad problem to have. And my head's spinning. Obviously, I knew I was playing good golf coming into this week. Just wanted to give myself a chance come Sunday afternoon, and I did that and was really happy with how I conducted myself today. I was really patient early, felt like I wasn't quite there, and as I said, I had some great shots down the stretch to get into that playoff, and anything can happen, and I was lucky enough it fell my way.
Terrific. We'll take some questions. If you have them, we'll just raise your hand and we'll get your mic, and we'll start over here and then come to John.
Hey, Ryan, James Duthie from TSN. Did you know on this, I think, second playoff hole, I kind of lost track, could you see that your ball had not gone into the water, the one when you went for it? And did that make you hesitate at all to go for it again on the shot that ended up winning the tournament?
I knew by the crowd reaction it hadn't gone in the water. I kind of heard cheers, and I figured they probably shouldn't cheer if it had gone in the water. I figured it probably was a boo or something. So I knew I got lucky there. I probably shouldn't have taken that shot on. It was sitting down a little bit, but I had a pretty good number with 3-wood to get there. And I feel like in a playoff, you've kind of got to take shots on. And the second time around, it was an easier decision. I like hitting a cut. I had a bit more room around that tree. I didn't have the tree visual in my way like I had the first time around, and I hit the exact shot I wanted to hit. I wasn't sure in the air if it was going to be a little short or perfect, and I didn't actually see it land. It was getting a bit hazy out there, but obviously by the crowd reaction, I knew it was pretty good. And as I said to Mark, probably the best shot I've ever hit in my life given the circumstances.
We'll go to John and then Adam.
Hey, Ryan, congratulations. How much did it mean to you to have members of the All Whites in attendance to cheer you on, especially given your family's history representing New Zealand internationally?
Yeah, that was really cool. They had a great win last night against the Ivory Coast. Mark can probably tell you a bit more about the game than I can. I was trying to get my kids to bed. But, it was to have the Kiwi support out there was great. They were there all day, and, we seem to have it a lot of weeks where there's random Kiwis pop up, and to have the All Whites say, hey, is there any chance we can come out and watch on Sunday was really cool, and to be able to meet them all there at the end and get a photo with them was pretty special, and hopefully that buoys them on a little bit for their game against Ukraine on Tuesday.
As a follow-up, what's your mental approach to a playoff? Because obviously you're pretty good at them.
Well, if you'd have seen any of the ones I had in Europe, you wouldn't say that. I didn't have a great record in Europe in playoffs, but I feel like you've got to take it on a little bit. It becomes match play. You kind of want to put the pressure on your opponent a little bit, and that's why I took that shot on the second playoff hole, and obviously why I took it on again on the fourth. And I think Sam's going to be a little bit gutted. He probably felt like he let that slip a little bit, especially the first playoff hole, but you need a little bit of luck in this game as well, and I was very lucky in that regard, and I was very happy in the end. I took that shot on 18 and hit hit the shot I hit. As I said, it's probably the greatest shot I've ever hit, and especially with a 3-wood into a par 5 over water, it doesn't really get too much better than that.
And just for the record, the All Whites did defeat Ivory Coast last night 1-0, and the team members that came out today had an absolute blast. Go ahead, Adam.
Ryan, congratulations. One of your 3 top 10s from last year came at the Canadian Open as well. Obviously, different golf course, different year, of course. But I'm curious what this win at this tournament as a National Open really means to you.
I probably haven't had quite a chance to process that yet. But, it's such an iconic tournament. So much history here. And to get my name on that trophy is amazing. I remember watching it years ago, when I was playing on the Aussie Tour, and thinking it looked like a really awesome event, and to get a chance to play in it and have a couple of good weeks last year, and this year, obviously this year is a little better, is amazing. And to see some of the names that are on that trophy and have my name on there with it is amazing.
One of the things that a lot of people talked about, and it was very easy to see today, is that your pace of play is aspirational. You kind of just see the shot and you go. Have you always been that way?
Yep. My brain always works fast. I do everything fast. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. But, for me, not saying golf's simple, but picking a shot's simple. I generally hit a cut. I see the window, I see what I want to hit pretty quickly, and it's unless it's really windy and gusty, it's going to be between 1 or 2 clubs. And for me, it's pick a target and hit it, and the less chance I give myself to think about it, probably the better.
Ryan, I'm just wondering if you knew that a hole location could change on the same playoff hole, and then was that hole, did it seem a little more inviting to you from the fairway?
I didn't know it could change until they told us driving up. But I think that's quite cool, obviously. It'd be a little frustrating as a fan to see the same stuff over and over again. I think it probably made going at the green a little easier. It's probably 10, 15 yards shorter there. And you've got a little less of the water to have to cover. And it also brings in the other stuff. Like it's a harder wedge shot in there. That I think the back pin, it all kind of feeds in there, and added a little bit of drama to it. And it did make it a little more inviting on that front side to have a go at. And kind of glad I pulled the shot off I did.
There was no problem for you and your caddy getting the number and all of that stuff too?
No, they gave us a little updated pin sheet and everything, and re-warned us again that they're changing the pin. And obviously, you could see it when we were walking down 18 for the 3rd time. They were still changing the pin while we were kind of hitting our second shot. So, I think it was a cool idea to do.
You slide that mic across, and we'll come over here.
Hi, congratulations. I wonder what it feels like, kind of mentally and physically, to have to keep going back again. The mental endurance it takes to know we're running it back again for one more hole here. I think I've been in a 4-hole playoff once before and come out the other side of it, and it's pretty frustrating because I think for that many holes you always feel like you're going to have at least one putt at it to win. But I think with a playoff, anything can happen in it. If whatever you can do to keep going, you feel like you've always got a chance, and it's kind of easy to get up for. I feel like I'm probably not going to sleep very well tonight. My nerves are going to be pretty frayed after that many holes, and that many holes under that kind of pressure. But it's all worth it in the end.
Ryan, congratulations. As was mentioned, your family has a long history of representing New Zealand, and your dad was part of one of the most iconic sports teams in the world. I'm curious what advice they've given you that's helped you throughout your career.
A lot, to be honest. My granddad passed away before I started playing golf seriously, but he coached me cricket-wise the whole way through school, basically, and until physically he couldn't. But when I started playing golf, Dad was on my bag. Dad used to travel a lot. He gave up a lot of time to help out, and it felt like I had a little bit of a sports psychologist in my
my corner the whole time. The terminology may have been different, but what he did goal kicking wise, I think transferred over really, really well into golf. Routine and targets and like being really focused on the little things. And it took a while to work out that me and Dad are quite different. Dad's very analytical. I'm just kind of, well, if I had a bad shot, I had a bad shot. Who really cares? And we had a few arguments here and there. But probably the greatest thing I took out of Dad is the idea that hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. He would always drill into me, if you work hard, no matter what happens, you can always be satisfied with the result, whether you make it or not, whether you succeed or not. You can always look back with your head held high. If you don't work hard, and there's always going to be a what if I did this differently. And Dad, I wouldn't say drilled it into me, but Dad, made sure I understood that concept pretty early. I always wanted to be a sportsman. Growing up, rugby and cricket were my two main sports, and golf came in there a little bit later. But I kind of took the same theory, or tried to take the same theory the whole way through.
Yes.
Hey, Ryan, Ian McMillan, Sports Illustrated. 2 questions for you. Number one, I want to ask you about your second shot on the 72nd hole. You laid up and ended up working for it. You got the birdie to force the playoff. Was there any thought at all to go for the green there and try to win the tournament right there?
Yeah, I didn't really have a great number. I was pushing. I probably had about 235 meters to over that corner. And if I missed 3 wood at all, it was wet. I will say probably in the back of my head that if I knew that second or better was going to get me in the US Open next week as well. And I also looked at that flag, and it's a nice flag to go out with a wedge into the wind. You had a little bit of backstop. The slope on the right kind of feeds it in. And I thought I had a really good wedge shot in there. I thought it would spin a little more, but obviously hold the putt. And to give myself a chance, I feel like I was pretty lucky for that putt. It always looked like it was a little low side for me, and just hung in there and lipped in that left side. But it was a 50-50 decision. Probably in a playoff, as you saw, I probably would have gone at it, but in regulation, didn't really want to bring in a really big number there.
You mentioned getting into the U.S. Open next week. Congratulations for that. Have you looked at Oakmont at all lately? Have you been there to scout it out just in case you were able to get in the U.S. Open? And do you have any thoughts on the course? Because it's all signs point to being a pretty tough challenge next week.
Yeah, I have. I've seen enough stuff on social media and talked to a couple of guys that went early this week, and it sounds like it's going to be a proper beat up, which it'll be fun. I've heard it's a fantastic golf course. It's hard. The greens are tricky. They're going to be running scary fast, and from what it looks like, the rough is straight hack out. So going to be a little different than this week. I don't think 18 under is going to be needed next week. I like that style of golf. Maybe not every week, but it's fun to play every now and again, and that par's a good score, and probably going to take it easy on Monday and try to figure out Oakmont in 2 days and see what happens. But it's nice to be in the field, that's for sure.
Everybody good? Just before we let you go, I've got a couple of quick ones. I want to take you back to your first tee shot today. Probably not something you want to remember, but in the left rough, found the ball. Just what was your thought process after that, and what would you say to like young players or amateur players at that level if they do something like that, and you've eventually come out and got the victory? What would you say to them? It was a terrible tee shot. To be honest, I hadn't missed a tee shot left all day, so it kind of shocked me a little bit in that regard, and was probably lucky to find it and have a shot out. But you've just got to stay patient. The same thing happened to me at Wentworth a couple of years ago. I made triple on the 4th hole to feel like I played my way out of the tournament, and then played 8 under golf for the next 14 holes or whatever, and ended up winning that. So, anything can happen, especially on the back nine Sunday. Like, just if you hang in there, give yourself a chance. Crazy stuff happens, and it did today. And I was really proud of how I handled those first couple of holes with some pretty scruffy stuff, and then it got better throughout the day, and I hit some really, really good shots under the pump down the stretch. And if I hadn't stayed patient early, I definitely wouldn't have been able to do that. The members of the All Whites that were here were watching you, and they were pretty intensely, celebrating with you. But I asked them, like, is this similar playoff to, like, penalty kicks? And they were adamant that it was. But what was it like having them here and meeting them afterwards and getting a photo taken with those guys?
Yeah, it was really cool. You know, I will say I'm probably more of an All Blacks fan than an All Whites fan, given my history. But you know, they've provided us some great entertainment over the years. I remember staying up in the middle of the night in the last World Cup they were in. Was it 2014, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
And you know, I feel like as a country we've always punched well above our weight in sport and in football, soccer. What am I supposed to call it over here? We do pretty well in that regard, and you know, to meet the guys afterwards, to get a chance to congratulate them on their win. I know it was a big win for them last night, and you know, to be able to share my win with them was really cool. And you know, there's a lot of Kiwis doing pretty good things in sport around the world, and we all root for each other, and it was cool to just be together in that moment.
How are you going to celebrate tonight?
I'm going to figure out how I'm going to get to Oakmont first.
That was
Probably
the next question.
Probably get my kids to bed and then find a glass of red wine.
Perfect. Well, good luck with your travel arrangements. Just how difficult that is, you know, unexpectedly, but good luck with that. And
Thanks, Mike.
congratulations on the victory here at the RBC Canadian Open.
Appreciate
Joining Sir Bob Charles,
Yeah.
1968. That's a nice.
That's
nice
very
record.
cool.
Congratulations.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.